I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At his weekly press briefing on Friday, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy laid out what the GOP is focusing on as the midterms approach. McCarthy vowed that Republican lawmakers will, quote, hold this government accountable. The California lawmaker listed the economy as the GOP's number one priority. Data released Thursday showed that there have been 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, which signaled the economy has entered a technical recession. Since then, Republicans and Democrats have argued over the definition of a recession. When asked about the potential of former President Trump announcing a presidential run before the midterms, McCarthy dodged and answered, quote, the only thing the president and I talk about is turning this country around.
Just following up quickly on Olivia's question, as the Republican leader, will you commit to holding the weekly solo press conferences every week for the remainder of this term?
If it's going to be every single week, I don't know what's going to happen every single week, but I'll commit to always have press conferences. Yes.
Just a follow-up question. As you look ahead to next year and mapping out the potential agenda for the majority and some of the oversight priorities, are the results of the last election, the 2020 election, on the agenda at all in terms of oversight concerns for the next Congress?
Look, at our greatest concerns right now is the economy of America, the cost of living for every single American. Americans losing a month of their paycheck, the price of gasoline. That's our focus. We want to become energy independent, lower the price of gas. We want to make you feel safe in your streets. Homicides are now at a 20-year high. This defunding of police, we told them it was wrong then, and it's wrong now. We're going to give bonuses to make sure individuals, officers can join the forces, that they could have the training to do the job. We're going to make sure prosecutors uphold the law. When it comes to the border, we're going to secure it in the movement of fentanyl and illegal drugs into our country. We're going to change the supply chain dependency on China and move it back to America. And yes, we'll get into other issues as well. I do not believe men should be competing with women in sports. It'll have a plan to put America back on the right track. And yes, we'll hold this government accountable. We'll want to know why that decisions were made the way they were leaving Afghanistan. We'll want to know where the origins of COVID actually began. Why, with the Democrats holding the majority, why haven't they had one hearing to know where that's happened? And yes, we'll want to know why the Attorney General goes after parents who simply want to go to a school board meeting to know what's happening in their kids' education. And yes, part of our commitment to America will have a Parents' Bill of Rights. The parents should have a say in their kids' education. They should know what's going on at the school as well. That's what our focus. Number one, the economy, the cost of living. It wasn't just Republicans who warned the Democrats. Their American Rescue Plan, that $2 trillion that only Democrats voted for, Steve Ratner calls it the original sin of inflation. Larry Summers warned them ahead of time. The fear that it would shoot up inflation. We're now sitting in a recession. I remember what Nancy Pelosi said in 2008. She defined the recession exactly as everybody else in the world did. 2 down quarters. It'll be interesting if you ask her that question. Will she try to redefine it like the Democrats do now? Is it only a recession in 2 down quarters if the president is a Republican? And the interesting part is you can take every graph you want to see. When did inflation start skyrocketing? After the swearing in of the president and the passing of the American Rescue Plan, where it was only Democrat votes. So are we focused? Yes, we're very focused. The cost of living is too high. We have not seen this in 40 years. The pain that is causing every single American family. I go back to the simple question. You ask the American family. I'm looking forward to CNN to finally ask this question. Could you afford to give up 1 month pay? Raise that question and see how many people said yes. The sad part is that regardless of how they answered the question, it was all taken from them. It was taken from them because of the Democratic policies creating this inflation. And it's not just inflation they created. They created the crime crisis from their defunding the police, in the election of these liberal prosecutors. Even San Francisco, that only has a Republican registration about 6.7%, recalled their DA, recalled their school board. It's only the Democrats in Washington who don't understand what's happening in this country, who are willing to go on recess in the middle of a recession. And their answer to it is, no, it's just a slowing of growth. Remember when they told us it wasn't real inflation, it's just discretionary? Then it had peaked at 7. Then it was Putin's problem. They blame everybody else except the policies, and then name me the worst part of what they have done besides create this. They have no plan to fix it, and they're going on recess.
So not
Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel about the prospect of President Trump announcing a presidential run for the midterms, and how that would affect the midterms, and have you talked to him about that at all?
Look, I was just with the president this week. The only thing the president and I talk about is turning this country around, is winning in 2022. You know, if President Trump was in office today, we wouldn't have inflation. We wouldn't have a national security problem at the border. We wouldn't have crime and homicides at a 20-year high. He loves this country, and he wants to see this country back on the right path. And that's the focus he and I are both a part of.
What does that mean for a presidential run in the midterms? Would that help?
The president's only focus is on winning the midterms, and that's my focus as well. Hope you all have a great weekend. Take care.